And we're live. Day 6. Day 6 is setting the stage for change. Just going to wait a few seconds to see if I have my microphone on today. Thank you very much. Today I'm going to read something that would make a great introduction to today's chat. What we've been discussing until now is what elements are we not aware of in order to actually set the stage for change in our lives. What have we not been realizing? What have we been missing? Is there anything missing that we're not aware of? Why do we want to change all those things on our list? If you still have your list and you still have your notebook, today will be a day that you'll be writing in a lot of things. So at this point of time, you should have a list of all the things that you deem need to change in your life in order to have a different experience. And next to each item, you should have some sort of emotional indication that every time you think about that, you get an emotion. And by now, they should be sorted by what gets you to feel a intense emotional charge when you do think about them, and until the lower ones. So this is the information you have at hand. Were you aware of it before? That those topics, those thoughts, these so-called situations, circumstances, events, or even people that might be on that list are creating so much emotional tension within you when you think of them, when you talk about them, when you imagine them, when you're contemplating scenarios and trying to avoid having that situation come up. So we've seen how the mind-body connection is connected by how you're thinking, how you're feeling, and then the action that you actually take trying to avoid feeling any of those emotions and sensations. Okay, this is all linked. I mean, this is really, really great information when you just look at it, okay, and not trying to fix anything, because again, you're not going to think your way out of this. It is the contrary. It is the thoughts that are creating this experience. And this is exactly what I'd like you to become aware of. It is your actual thoughts that are creating this magnificent experience. And you say, oh, it doesn't feel that magnificent to me. But this is the point, that these are all tools that we're using. Okay, but the first thing, before you even try and fix anything, because fixing ain't going to happen. Fixing will not happen from the same state of being that you created them. Okay, this is not my original quote. We've all heard it. This is a state of being that these thoughts and emotions have now made you feel this familiarity. There's a familiarity that when you think these thoughts and feel it, you're feeling familiar. This is feeling familiar to you. It's not new. What's new to you is not feeling those feelings. What's going to be new to you is not going habitually straight to that thought. What's going to feel new to you is relief, becoming aware of what is seeing those thoughts. So setting the stage for change is literally discovering the presence in the present moment. And I thought I'd read this to you. I put it on my timeline today. It's by Eckhart Tolle, and he's just so eloquent. Between him and Rupert Spira, those are my two favorite people that just say it like it is. All right, so this I am realization, which we're heading towards, this I am realization. And if you haven't read his book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, get it. Ask someone to give it to you as a Christmas present or something. It is really, really good. It'll put all of this in perspective. Okay, this I am realization, the sense of your own presence, is not a thought. It's not a thought. It's the only thing that cannot be thought. Okay, that's why it's called a realization and not a thought. Okay, it arises from beyond the mind. Okay, now the language of the mind, we've already said that it's thoughts. Everything that you think about are thoughts. That's it. They are thoughts. The thinking mind only interacts with thoughts. Let that just sink in. Okay, it arises from beyond the mind. So when you listen to a thought, when you're listening to a thought, you are aware not only of the thought, but also of yourself as the witness of the thought. There's more happening. There's more happening. There's more that we were unaware of. When a thought arises where? And where is arising? Who knows the thought? There's the knowing factor. All right? This is where we all get confused, that in the unconscious of our mind, a thought comes and we automatically assume it's talking about us. An unworthy thought comes up. Oh, I am unworthy. I can't go up on stage. I cannot speak. No one's going to bother. Why am I? Everything, like a guilty thought. Oh, I am the one that's guilty. No, it's a thought arising and you're the one witnessing it. This is a realization. All right. So a new dimension of consciousness has come in. A new dimension of consciousness has come in. So when you see a thought come up, now that you're practicing, you're noticing thoughts come up. Now the actual fact of noticing the thought is something that you weren't aware of before. You're noticing a thought arise. Now there's a different feeling to that. I've spent the whole morning, because we've been talking about this, the whole morning just being aware of thoughts. And I tell you, some of them ain't nice. They're nasty. Some of them are nasty. All right. So a new dimension of consciousness has come in. As you listen to the thought, you feel a conscious presence. Now, if you stay there and just listen, you become familiar with this conscious presence. There's a sense of presence. And even when thoughts arise, I can just dive deep and rest in that presence. I don't have to run off with a thought. I can just rest in it. Rest in the presence instead of running off with a thought. So this is really good. I mean, I'm reading it quite slowly just to make my points across today. But I just literally posted it to my timeline just a minute or two before I came on live. So as you listen to the thought, you feel a conscious presence, your deeper self, behind or underneath the thought, as it were. The thought then loses its power over you and quickly subsides. The moment you become more aware and conscious of this presence, it's like, this feels a lot better than the thought. So the thought sort of subsides. It appears and disappears. It's born and it dies. All right? The thought then loses its power over you and quickly subsides because you are no longer energizing the mind through identification with it. And that, hallelujah, it's the fact that we always identify ourselves with the thought. Therein lies an aha moment. There is no obligation to identify yourself with the thought. You're never going to achieve that, the thought. What's it got to do with you? You've been a bad person, thought. Whatever arises in conscious presence is magnificent energy, yes. But if a thought that feels familiar to you, that you just keep thinking it because it feels familiar to you, will only allow you to have the same experience until you wake up to the fact that those thoughts do not need to be identified as you. Okay? So as you go more deeply into this realm of no mind, so many people have, I'm always thinking, because if I don't think, then who am I? There's a realm of no mind. No mind is that which is aware of thoughts. You spend more time there as conscious awareness in presence. Now it's a completely different experience. Okay? So as you go more deeply into this realm of no mind, as it is sometimes called in the East they call it no mind. Here, I'm not sure what they call it. You realize the state of pure consciousness, and this is where the empowerment within you can be felt. The pure state of consciousness, presence consciousness, isness, beingness, existence. That is who you are. Not the thoughts, but the thoughts are a fabulous point of reference. Like the moment a thought arises, and if you look clearly enough while you're meditating, do this while you're meditating, not while you're out and about, just to get the hang of it. But the thought is a great point of reference. As a thought arises in your meditation, you notice the thought, and then notice from where you're looking at it, and then rest there. That is just one of those points of reverence. If you can see the thought, and then you can just like go back and say, okay, who's looking at that thought? What is seeing? Notice the presence, notice the awareness, and rest there. Rest in the sense that you are already that. You are always already present. It's not that you come and go like thoughts. Thoughts come and go. You never come and go. You are always and already here. It's just you weren't aware of it. That's fine, The beauty of awakening. So in that state, you feel your own presence with such intensity and such joy that all thinking, all emotions, your physical body as well as the whole external world become relatively insignificant in comparison to it. In that state, you feel your own presence with such intensity and such joy that all thinking, all emotions, your physical body, as well as the whole external world, become relatively insignificant in comparison to it. And yet, this is not a selfish, but a selfless state. You are nobody. And when you realize you are nobody, then you can become anybody you want. But let's take one step at a time. It takes you beyond what you previously thought as yourself. So the first process is waking up where your pain is coming from, your thought process and what feels familiar to you, your emotions, your physical body, and the world. So there's this realizing that what are emotions? And we've discussed that, and we'll probably keep discussing it for the remaining of the 21 days. What is a thought? Thought is everything that appears within your conscious awareness. And who are you? You are that which witnesses it. So whether you're thinking, whether you're complaining, whether you're imagining, whether you're contemplating, whether you're planning, these are all thoughts. The mind doesn't know whether it's actually happening or if it's an imagination. It doesn't know whether it's in the past, in the present, or the future. It's just thoughts. Thoughts, what are they? Contemplate. They are not you. Number one, they are not you. Neti. That I'm not that. I'm not a thought. And I'm certainly not the mind. The mind is the brain in action. The mind is energy where it just speaks the language of thoughts. You're not that. Now, when you become aware that you're not your thoughts and you're not your emotions and you're not your physical body, that does not represent you. And when you identify yourself with a thought and the mind and the body, it is limiting in nature. It is separating you from the whole in nature. And hence, we have now discovered why we're feeling so bad about our present moment, about our circumstances, because it's already limiting you in nature. It's telling you what your current experience has been. And then you think, oh, this is who I am. I am never going to succeed in giving birth to a new experience unless someone gives it to me. But your sense of self is all built upon the assumption you are the thoughts that you think. And as nasty as they may sound, that ain't you. So if they sound nasty, you think you are nasty. If they sound depressing, you think you are the depressed. If they sound shameful, you think you are the shameful person. The nature of thoughts in itself allows you to have this grand experience. And you say, okay, I get that. Now, how do I have the good experiences? Well, wait a minute. Let these nasty experiences, I'm joking here, but let all thoughts serve you right now to become aware of what you're not. Because if you're going to identify yourself with a negative emotion and a negative thought, we don't want you to start identifying yourself neither with the positive ones or with the positive emotions. The fact remains that you are neither. We'll talk about thoughts as tools that gather momentum and focuses energy in being creative and inspired and intuitive. You can't learn how to use tools when you don't know who's using them. Let's become aware, first of all, about that presence consciousness that is aware of the thoughts. If a thought just arises, who am I? Start asking these questions. Notice all those things that you wrote down in your notebook. When you're meditating and you think those thoughts, notice presence consciousness. Notice from where are you seeing these thoughts? And rest there. What is the qualities of presence consciousness? Presence is very still. There's nothing moving. You have to be still in order to see what's moving. You have to be the space to notice what's in it. You are that which holds the energetic environment for them to actually be seen as arising and disappearing. So thoughts are not you. And you've misidentified your personality, your identity with them. Notice every single time you're complaining about something, it's a thought. Thought has taken the form of a complaint. It's just a thought. Everything we argue about are thoughts. And everyone has different thoughts, which means everyone has a different perspective. Perspective, again, comes from thought. And guess what? Every single perspective is valid. And when you can see from where they're seeing, from their personal history, from their level of unconsciousness, from what they are perceiving, their thought is valid to them. And when you argue with that, you're saying my perception is better than anyone else's perception, which isn't even true. Your perception is just a thought. Ultimately, all thoughts are valid and all of them are irrelevant, because none of them are you. None of them are the essence of who we really are. they just slices off the bigger picture. And if you put them all in, everyone's perspective all in, it's basically like looking at a magnificent statue from different perspectives, but it's all part of the same one. And if you're going to continue to take your sense of identity from your thoughts, you'll always be limited in nature. You'll never get anywhere, because you're always going to believe that my thoughts identify me. And then if anyone condemns my thoughts or doesn't agree with me, that means I'm wrong. I shouldn't exist. Your thoughts have got nothing to do with you. In your next meditation, notice thoughts. Notice them for what they are. Harmful, harmless, harmful, they're harmless, or they're just thoughts that bear no meaning, unless the meaning you give them is important to you and you need to just carry on doing that. Can you just let it go? Can you just let a thought arise and disappear? All thoughts is the interaction of the mind that we interact with all day, every day. Unless we stop and breathe and stay as that stateless being and get to know who we really are. Let's take the time to really get acquainted with ourselves. I've been on this planet for 45 years, 60 years, you say. I've been around for so long, and it never occurred to me that everything that hurt me are thoughts. And if you look closely, every single thought that you have is based on an experience from the past. So everything you're seeing is a knowing and a confirming of something that you've experienced in the past. And if you keep identifying yourself with those thoughts from the past, you're going to catapult yourself into the future, creating a lot more past over and over and over again. And you say, when is this gonna change? And notice the loop. Notice this loop. Notice the loop. Notice the loop. And then notice what notices. Notice what is noticing the thoughts. Notice. Why we say notice, realize, see. It's not doing. Just see and notice. Another dimension of consciousness, as Eckhart Tolle says. Anyway, loved ones, I don't get to see all of the comments. I just see a few things coming up and down my screen. I hope there are no questions. But yeah, notice everything you wrote down in your notebook. Notice if you can see any thoughts. And when you recognize them in your meditations, notice presence consciousness. Notice that you can rest in a very peaceful, calm, still, spacious place. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.